Hi, welcome, welcome. We'll get started in about 2 minutes. Just want to give everyone time to sort of come in, get settled, and then we'll get started at 2. Welcome. If you, while we're waiting, want to pop into the Zoom chat, say hi, share where you're coming from, what grade you teach. We'll do more, a little bit more formalized introductions via a poll later, but while we're getting started. Welcome from Pittsburgh. Ooh, welcome from Dubai. No, Abu Dhabi. Read that right. Looks like we have a couple of different grades here, which is amazing. We'll get you all what you need. Oh, Deer Park. I'm from Long Island. Not far from Deer Park. Like some paraprofessionals, special ed teachers. Wonderful diversity in the room from Florida. I bet you it's wonderfully warm in Florida compared to where I am. Welcome, West Virginia. We have about 31 folks in the room. We have some more registered, so I'll wait until about roughly 2:01, and then we'll just launch into the presentation and we'll get going. East Patchogue. My Long Island people are here. Okay, let's get started, and then as folks sort of roll in, we'll get everybody caught up. Good afternoon. Hi, my name is Barbara Hubert. I'm the Director of Professional Learning at BrainPOP. I'll tell you a little bit more about myself in a few, but we are going to do an overview of what distance learning with BrainPOP Junior could look like. Just to remind you, this is an overview, so there's going to be both a lot of information, but hopefully a lot of excitement. When we are done with this, if the presentation moved really fast, as some of you heard me say, I'm a native New Yorker, so I have the New York speed in my speaking, so I will slow that down. But if you miss something, don't worry, this is both being live streamed on YouTube and we are recording it for you. So you can always go back and pick up something that you missed or want to spend a little bit more time on. So let me get that going. Great. Some just really quick, some webinar Zoom 101s. We will be, well, Robert, who is coming in 10 minutes, will be monitoring the Q&A. So if you have a question specifically about something that you're seeing in the webinar, pop it in the Q&A, and we'll either answer it, to you in the Q&A, or if it's something a lot of folks are asking, we'll share it with everybody. If you want to have a comment or just a suggestion, pop it in the chat. Other folks might respond or have a similar comment or suggestion. You do have access to the recording to share with as many people as you would like. So feel free, it'll be both on our YouTube channel, our BrainPOP YouTube channel, but you'll also get it in the sort of follow-up email after this. Great. So we're going to do a quick poll to get a sense of who's in the room. And this is super helpful because it'll also help me give some more guidance and some more personalized tips based on who's in the room. So I'm going to launch that poll right now. Allow panelists to vote. Perfect. And you should have just seen a little poll pop up. Before you submit, just make sure to answer all of those questions. If you, for some reason, don't see the poll pop up, that's totally fine. There's either a little poll button at the bottom, or if you don't see it, you can just chat in the chat and just tell us, what's your familiarity with BrainPOP. This will be, to Tanya's question, this will be the same information that was presented in the BrainPOP and BrainPOP Junior overview webinar. It depends which one you attended, but largely it will be the same, but we're going deep into Junior versus doing both today. So as you're introducing yourselves, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I'm the Director of Professional Learning at BrainPOP, which means I work with the educators team, and we think about how BrainPOP can be used in the classroom. What are the different ways that we can really leverage that, and what do teachers need to do that? I come from a background in special education, so I was a special education teacher for about 10 years. At that time was also supporting teachers and building curriculum. For me, it was particularly around creating instructional access for a diversity of learners. So super excited to bring that to BrainPOP, because BrainPOP was sort of an anchor in my classroom when I was teaching. We will give you about 2 more seconds to log in, and then I'll share a little bit about who's in the room. Okay, I'm going to end that poll. I'll share it with you. So it looks like we have about 50% brand new users. Welcome. Like I said in the beginning, there's going to be, it is an overview, so we're not going to go deeply into each tool, and you'll likely have questions like, oh, how did you do that again? And oh, wait, show me that again. No worries. We have one, you can again go back and watch this, but 2, we have also a ton of other webinars that you can attend after the overview one that do deep dives into all the pieces that we're talking about today. We also have about 40% that have only taught with the videos. Great. Again, we'll do a deeper dive. Even though you're a little familiar, we'll do a little bit of a deeper dive. We have largely K-2 and some 3 to 5. We're a little smattered, but that's great. So BrainPOP Junior is geared generally towards K-3 students. But again, it's really about the content and the needs of your students. So I taught 4th and 5th grade when I was a special education teacher, and I often use BrainPOP Junior just because my students needed the pieces that were embedded in BrainPOP Junior and the topics of BrainPOP Junior. But that's not to say that this isn't applicable for other grades. And if you want to, get more challenging or more rigor, join us at 3 o'clock for the similar overview, but for BrainPOP. We have about 65% of teachers, some media specialists, some other folks. 100% of our schools are currently closed. Many of our schools are increasingly staying closed for the rest of the school year. So yeah, we are with you, we hear you, and there are a big focus of this really will be about how do you do this in a distance learning space. And then we have a variety of students who have access to internet. Again, there will be some opportunities that when we're talking about aspects of BrainPOP Junior, we can also sort of give some offline suggestions, even though we know it's difficult to get kids, resources offline in a distance learning world. And then most of you have a central hub. Cool. Well, again, welcome. Just a quick agenda for the day. We're going to start with introductions, check. Go into distance learning. Not that you need an overview of what these are, but just to sort of name that these are happening, we're considering them, and how we're talking about BrainPOP Junior today. And then we're going to go into just the organization of BrainPOP Junior. What are you going to see when you get on the page? What are those things? And then we'll dive into the site and give you a sense of how can we seamlessly and easily really try to make the most of the tools and resources in online learning. We'll show you how to create assignments if you have individual accounts. We'll talk about what that means at the end. And then we'll show you some educator resources, which are my favorite because they are, well, everything's my favorite, but in terms of supporting teachers and distance learning, our educator resources are really like tying pieces together to hopefully make it easier and clearer for you. Great. So really quickly, as you probably know, but I'm going to just review the terms real quick because we'll be throwing them out. There's synchronous distance learning, which is kind of what we're doing right now, right? Real time, live, you can have immediate feedback with chat rooms and Zooms and Hangouts. From what I've read, not a ton of folks right now are engaged in synchronous learning, which is fine. We can also sort of be really effective in an asynchronous space. That space is not live, we're posting assignments, students are working on them, we're giving feedback, and so it's this sort of back and forth, but never face-to-face. And then there's blended, which is a little bit of both. You're either delivering content live, but then getting assignments done independently, or maybe putting some content out for students to take in, but then meeting. As I'm sure you're all grappling with, distance learning can look a lot of different ways. So I have my distance learning hat on today. Before we jump into the overview and what you're going to see in terms of organization, I just want to preface by saying there will probably be questions about what kind of account do I have? How do I integrate this? I 100% promise you, we will get to explaining what that is. I just don't want account type to sort of derail going in and getting a sense of what's in BrainPOP Junior. So we will 100% go into account types, give you guys a sense of what you might have, but trust that that's coming. Okay, great. So BrainPOP Junior, when you go to a topic page, and I will go there now, and I don't know, let's try reading skills. And this is the topic that we're going to stay with all day today. So facts and opinions. When you are on every topic page, as a teacher, once you log in, this is what you'll see. You'll see the BrainPOP movie, which is every topic. And then you'll see activities and assessments. We'll go into those tools. Down at the bottom, you'll see related topics. So if you're teaching fact and opinion, and then you want to build on that and, oh, I want to make some inferences, there are some related topics at the bottom of every movie. And then up here for teachers, there are lesson ideas, which will bring you to our educators page. And then opportunities to create a quiz or assign things, which I'll show you all about assigning things, assigning assignments, activities so that students can access them at home. So we have easy quizzes and hard quizzes. So easy quizzes are just what they are. They're easier. There are less questions. The wording is a little simpler. There might be visuals in the questions. And then the hard quiz, again, all around the same topic, has more challenging questions in terms of the thinking students need to do or the way that questions are phrased. We have Make a Map, which is our concept mapping tool. We have Wordplay, which is our vocabulary development feature. And then down below that, we have a variety of other features, again, that will all be on BrainPOP topic page. BrainPOP Junior topic pages. That is a tongue twister. So each one of these, they'll have different prompts depending on the topic or the activity. So Draw About It has a prompt where students need to draw. Write About It has a prompt where students need to write. Talk About It is an activity where they can students can engage in dialogue about a topic. And then there are sort of other ones, Belly Up, Pop a Joke, are funny little side things that I really, really love. And activities often are great tools and printables. So that's what you'll see when you're on a BrainPOP Junior homepage, topic page. And you'll see here that there are boxes in red. So when you have an individual account, and again, I'll show you what that means, you have access to all of these and you can assign them to your students. Really quickly, no sign-in sheet, your attendance is logged and you will get a certificate of completion and attendance at the end. Sorry, there was just a Q&A about that, so I wanted to respond. Okay. Welcome. Hi, Robert's here. Great. So Robert, firstly, you responded to all the panelists, so no one can see. But Robert is going to be here to help with your Q&A, to help with the chat questions. So welcome, Robert.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
No.
From webinar to the next.
Yep. So just really quick, we popped into the account overview, and I'm gonna, before going into the features of the tools, I want to sort of think about a really sort of oversimplified learning pathway. This one says kindergarten, but it can be used for K-3, you know, up through however old, because we're sort of bucketing things into 3 discrete teaching and learning steps that then you can take and adapt to your distance learning arc of instruction. So that first piece is really about building background knowledge, right? How are we taking the information in the topic and having students engage with it so that they can add it to their background knowledge to then engage in higher order thinking skills, right? So that's generally the BrainPOP movie. And I will show you, well, let me go over this first. So we have building background knowledge. Then you take it in this content. Well, what do you do with it? How do you grow it and build it? So there's a think phase, right? So there's a thinking and doing that students are using a tool and feature to exercise. And then there's the assessment. How do you know students mastered the topic? And that can come in many forms, but most simply the quizzes. So I'm going to pop into our fact and opinion and start with some building. Sorry, that was my dog, who you will also see. He likes to make guest appearances in the webinars. We'll start with building background. And one of the biggest ways to build background with BrainPOP Junior is through our movies for kids to engage with. So every BrainPOP Junior movie has, you can put the closed captioning on, which is helpful. There's oh, this is great. I turned it off because you can all hear it, but there's a sound on option so that when it rolls over, you can hear them speaking.
That's not Annie that you hear. That's Barbara's.
That's my dog, yeah. So those are the movies. So there's closed captioning. There are settings where you can change the speed of the movie. So if you want it a little bit slower, you can click that. It doesn't change the quality of the movie or the speech at all. And there's also Annie's notebook. So Annie, as the movie goes on, is Moby's sidekick. And Annie has a notebook where she stops and takes notes throughout the movie. And you can print Annie's notebook and have those questions that she asks alongside, and students can pause and answer those questions, have discussions about those questions. But that's print Annie's notebook. And then all of our movies have transcripts. So if students want to either read them alongside the movie or make notes, or if you've got students who need work offline, printing the transcripts is an alternative way for them to access the content in the movie. So that's a quick overview of the movie and how to build background knowledge with BrainPOP Junior. And now I'm gonna take it a step further. So we've watched facts and opinions. We know what a fact is. We know what an opinion is. But I want my students to think more deeply about that and engage and do something with that information, right? Apply it. And that's where these other wonderful tools and features come in. So at our vocabulary building level, we have wordplay, which I'll click on. And wordplay highlights keywords that were touched on and defined in the movie, and it gives students a chance to more deeply engage. So let's say I'll pick fact, and as a student, I have the option to draw about a fact with some tools at the bottom. I can write about a fact, maybe a sentence or a few sentences using the word in a different context. Or you can act it out where you write a little script and you can have students even read it to their families or each other, depending on your distance learning space. But what I particularly love is that there is student choice and autonomy. You can definitely say, hey, do the draw about it depending on grade level, or not draw about it because that's a whole different thing. You can definitely pick draw within wordplay. But there's also this opportunity for student choice and autonomy. I know in my classroom, I had a lot of students who were more keen to draw an explanation for me and label it, and that was fine. So I'm going to go back to fact and opinion. So we built background knowledge. We've got some vocab, word play going on. And now I want my students to go a little bit deeper. So I can choose the activity, which in this one is we're creating cards for characters. So that's a great principle. Going back. We can click draw about it, which is different than wordplay because draw about it is a prompt. And so all of these activities are asking students to apply what they learned from the movie in a different context. So who's your favorite character from a book? Draw a picture. I would put my favorite character, and then I might say, it is my opinion that that is my favorite character. Back. So as you go in, I'm not going to go into all of the tiles, because as you go in and find a topic that you want to build background, think and do and assess, you can go in and see which prompt fits best for what lesson you're trying to teach. Beyond that, we have what's called Make a Map, and Make a Map might be one of my favorite tools. This was not available when I was in the classroom teaching. And then when I came to BrainPOP, it blew my mind because of the variety of ways students could show not just their learning, but the way that they're thinking and making connections. And so this is really one of my favorites. So I'm going to make a new map, and it's a concept mapping tool, right? Concept mapping is when we are, well, you can use concept mapping for many things, but it's really showing different kinds of connections between ideas, either ideas from the movie, from personal experience, beyond. They're sort of never ending, but that's how our brain constructs knowledge, right? It takes on these new information and new pieces of information and attaches to old pieces of information. So that's what concept mapping is, and that's what Make a Map does. So, and also I should tell you that my cursory surface demonstration of Make a Map is just that, and we have a whole webinar that goes deeply into Make a Map. But so I'll just show you really quickly. Make a Map is for every topic in BrainPOP Junior, and you can start with just blank nodes and put a question in there that you want students to sort of grapple with and make connections. So I'm going to start with, what is the difference between fact and opinion? Give examples. Spelling. I get nervous when I type in front of other people, because then you can all see my poor typing skills. Okay, so I want to make connections to what is the difference between fact and opinion. Well, that's a big thing for our K-3 and really all of our learners to start with. Where do I go from there? Well, they can start with images on the left. And these are all images from the movie. So let's see. I don't want that one. I want this picture of a spider. And I might ask students to explain why. This is a spider. That is a fact. So that's just sort of living out there, right? Like, how do you know it's connected? Or is it answering the question? Well, I'm going to show that there's a connection. I'm going to write example of a fact. And then you can have kids keep building on. What I love is that they can use images. They can use keywords from the movie. They can use, different kinds of blank nodes. They can change the color. But I also love if I am using a word from the movie and I pop it up there and I make a connection, I can click play.
A fact is a statement that can be proven true.
And it starts that movie right where that word is. So if students need a refresher, they're like, I actually don't remember what a fact is. You can go to the keywords, connect it, click on fact, and it brings you right to the movie. So that's Make a Map. That's a broad overview of a very wonderful tool with lots of different moving parts to it. But it is a really rich way for students to, if we're coming back to this idea of think and do, and to apply all of those learnings from the building background that happened. It's a really wonderful and flexible tool. But also it might just, depending on what you're teaching, you might use it, you might not, and that's okay. And then finally, we have assess. How are we going to assess our students' learning with BrainPOP? I'm going to go back to fact and opinion. And this is where you can just go straight for the quiz. There is the easy quiz, which students can start, or you can print out for those who need offline access. There's always a little printer icon up there. Come back. Or you can assign the hard quiz depending on your grade level and what you're teaching. I'm going to pause there before I go much deeper and just check in with Roberts. Nope, just one. Robert, if there are any big questions? No, okay.
So yeah, eventually there's a couple questions asking about like assignments. So,
oh, great, that's what I'm doing next.
Perfect.
Okay, great. You're like, great, Barbara, these are all wonderful tools. How do I get my kids to access them in a distance learning space? So I'm going to show you two really, really wonderful features called Assignment Builder and Quiz Mixer. I'll show you the Quiz Mixer first. So, and this is a really wonderful way to be able to differentiate your assessment beyond the easy quiz and the hard quiz. So if I want to create a quiz for fact and opinion, because either the easy and hard quizzes don't really like get kids to grapple with the specific topic of how I'm thinking about fact and opinion, or if it might be too complex for some students or too easy for some students, you can create your own quiz. And this is on the top of every topic page, and it's called the Quiz Mixer. And what it does is it lets you write your own questions and change lots of the options. So you can have a multiple choice question. For more challenging, you can have an open-ended question. With the multiple choice, you can have text answers that they have to select from, or for younger learners, you can have image answers that they have to select from. You could also change the format to make them large or small, but you can also limit the number of questions students need, or I'm sorry, the number of answers students have to pick from if there might be a cognitive overload with 4 choices. You can also search for other folks who have created, let me just take out K-3. Search all text. Well, that's just not true. But you can search for other topic or other questions that teachers have written around this topic. So you can add that to your quiz too. So that is Quiz Mixer. And again, that I found just by going to create a quiz. Okay, so now to Robert's point. We've created a quiz. We know what movie we want to watch. We know what activities we want to do. How do I get them to my students? With an individual account, you have the option to assign assignments to your class. So you can assign from the topic page, you can assign within an individual tile, but I want to build an assignment. I don't want my students to just do one thing. I'm going to assign here, and it brings me to what's called slow internet. No, it brings me to what's called assignment builder. My internet's been adorable today. Okay, beautiful. So I want to establish this learning path for my students. And again, for me, I have this frame of build background, think and do, assess. So I'm going to start with the movie to have them build some background. I want them to do some wordplay, right? The vocabulary building. I really want them to, since I'm thinking about a kindergarten class for facts and opinions, so I might select draw about it, and then the easy quiz. So I've selected the 4 items I want my students to engage with. I click next. I can title it whatever I want. I'm going to leave it fact and opinion. I'll do fact and opinions lesson. I can put some instructions in here. If you've got multilingual students, sometimes I put instructions in their home language in here. I do not speak all of the multiple languages that my students did, but found a translator, popped it in there. You can simplify language depending on, again, grade level, student community. And then you can put these in order. I want my students to take them in this order. So, or I want to cue my students that this is the order I want them to take it in. So I'm going to now click next. And now I'm going to assign it to my class. So I have Barbara's class 2020. And if I assigned it to the whole entire class, and I'll show you what it looks like on the student end, the whole class would get the assignment. If you want to differentiate, right? So if you want to say this learning path is only for a subgroup of students, you can then assign it to specific students. So maybe you clicked the easy quiz for these students, but you want a different group of students to take the hard quiz. This assignment you can just assign to these 3 students. But I'm going to assign it to the whole class today. And then you click assign, and this is where you're landing. So this is a really important page because copy assignment link. If you are working with, say, Google Classroom, you can copy this assignment link. It copies to a clipboard, right? The sort of virtual clipboard. And then you can paste it into whatever platform you're using or whatever learning hub you're using. I'm going to show you what it looks like on the student end. So a student, and I'll show you how to get there too. When a student logs in, this is what they see. They see Ms. Hubert has assigned you an assignment, and then they'll go in and do what they are assigned. So all of that lives in your teacher dashboard. So you can find your teacher dashboard right up here at the top. If you are logged in right now or have been logged in before and you don't see a teacher dashboard up there, that's okay. We'll talk about that in a second. It just means you don't have an individual account, but we'll tell you all about how to get one with free access. Okay, so this is where all of my assignments live. So I just assigned my fact and opinion lesson to my students. Obviously, none of them have taken it yet because I just assigned it. And it tells me that none of them have taken it yet. And you can sort of move between the movie, see how they did on wordplay. I will show you, I'm going to go into an assignment where students have completed some of their work. They're not as behind. So let me pick out, I have lots of assignments. Okay. I'm going to go into, this is what my students took a quiz on the movie. We were learning about body systems. I assigned this movie quiz and 7 out of 10 of them took it. And this is what I see on the teacher end. After students submit, like, for example, a quiz, this is what I see on the teacher end. I see all their names. I see their scores. And if I want to take a deeper look, I can sort of think like, ooh, Steve got 5 out of 10. I wanted to sort of get a sense of why. So I can click on him and see his actual answers and maybe sort of find a theme that in his answers as to why he got them incorrect. So that's, again, my teacher dashboard. And then I went into my assignments. I'm also going to show you what it looks like when a student submits a Make a Map, which is what we talked about. So again, it'll all be in your teacher dashboard. I'm going to find that Make a Map assignment. I believe it was butterflies. Just kidding. It's not butterflies. I'll find it. It's coming. Stress. Here we go. I had one student submit their Make a Map to me. So they, again, I assigned them Make a Map, said, here's the sort of central question. They did it. They clicked the submit button, and this is what I see as a teacher. So I'm going to go view Fitzgerald's work. And I see that he was making a map that's, I'm going to open it up full screen so I can see it a little better. And I see the question was, why does the sun feel so hot? And I'm noticing that Fitzgerald has some key words here or see some key images, but I don't see a ton of his thinking and connection. So what I can do is I can, as you see, can leave a little comment. I wrote, I'd love to see more connections or ideas. I can submit that to him. He'll see it in his dashboard and can even resubmit Make a Map. So I'm going to submit this to student. And that's how students get the assignments and have this sort of distance discourse with you as a teacher, where you can really get a sense of their learning. I'm going to pause to check in with Robert.
We're good.
We're good. All right.
Yep.
All right. So I promised you I would talk about accounts. So if you have, I'm going to go back to my teeny tiny little teacher dashboard. If you have that teacher dashboard, you have what's called an individual account. So the individual account is part of a school-wide access. And what that means is someone in your school has gone through, let's say they went for the free access, someone in your school went through the school-wide access and said, I want access for my whole entire school. That person becomes like the administrator, not like an actual administrator, but the sort of go-to person in your school. And then teachers get individual accounts from that sort of admin. So that admin can generate new accounts for the teachers, and then teachers have their own class. They can make a class, they can have single sign-on with some what is the word I'm looking for? It doesn't matter. Things like Google Classroom or but and I'll show you that in a second. But so with the school-wide access, you can see the teacher dashboard and you can do all of the things we did today. You can get the animated movies, lesson plans, all the quizzes, games. You can assign creative projects. You can save creative projects, and you can track your students' progress. So that's those are sort of the features that we moved through today. If you're logged in and you don't see a teacher dashboard, that probably means that you have single class access or family access, depending if you're a teacher or a caregiver. And with those with those types of access, you can view the movie, you can view the lesson plans, you can engage with quizzes, games, activities, but you can't save them and you can't assign them. So if you're sitting here thinking, Barbara, I really want that school-wide access, can I get it? Yeah, so go back to where you signed up for free access originally, and click sign up now for the school-wide access. And one of two things will happen. If someone at your school has already signed up for school-wide access, then you'll get this automatic email that says, hey, Barbara, someone at PS 999 has already signed up for school-wide access. That person is Robert. So just reach out to Robert and he'll get you set up. That's if somebody has it. If you sign up for school-wide access and no one at your school has yet, Also, okay, you'll get some login info that says you're the school administrator. So if anybody else from your school comes, they're going to come to you. That's my individual account spiel. Okay, logging into BrainPOP. So if you have that individual account, and it was not a free account initially, you can log in with things like G Suite, Clever, ClassLink, OneRoster, and they'll sync for a single sign-on. If you have a free account, you have to get a code, and that's the only option for free accounts right now. And we can speak to that in a second. But this is for uploading your students, right? So that you don't have to go in manually and put them all in. You would give your students a code that's generated. Like, here, I'll just show you. So what's a code, right? And then it tells you if you're a student, your teacher can get, well, just kidding. The student would put their code in here and the code generates for you. And then the student has to create their own login information, but it all gets synced to your class. So that's the easiest way if you have a free account right now to get your students all in one place without you having to go in manually. Any questions about accounts or logins? No? Okay.
Nope, I don't think so.
Oh my gosh. Okay,
That was
great.
good. There actually is one question though, kind of ties in. So let's just say you do have the school-wide. So that's kind of nice. Everyone in, multiple teachers in a single site can have, their own account. So David asks, so if, he's working, at school or distance with his grade level, and he's using the quiz mixer. He's making his own quiz, mixing his own quiz. Can he share it with his teachers, his other teachers, so they don't have to create it themselves?
Yeah. And Robert, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Ish. Ish meaning when you go to Quiz Mixer and you make a new quiz. I'm going to go to my reptiles quiz. You can choose to save it into the Quiz Mixer repository, and they can use it from there to assign it. So let's say you wanted to use the reptile quiz I made. You can go in and just click assign.
And that would assign it to your.
Yeah,
right.
And then assign it to your class.
And then if you'll notice too, under there, right, so when you create a new quiz, she's already made this one. So, but you'll see that it says published, and it also gives you the option to share it if you want to share it with people. So you can share. Just know that even though teachers, these are only accessible to teachers, there actually are there's a brain popper at BrainPOP who goes over the quizzes, not checking if it's right or wrong, but just making sure everything's appropriate. So David, if you post, it may not be immediately available, but like in a day or two, it should be available.
Awesome. Okay, here are some, I'm just going all in, some educator resources. So as an educator, I was often like, these are all really wonderful, but now I need help planning. Now I need help sort of putting this into practice in a way that works for distance learning. So there are a ton of resources on educators.brainpop.com. So I'm going to go to educators. So there are also two ways to get here. You can just type in educators.brainpop.com, or you can go back to BrainPOP and click on Moby's, the little arrow next to Moby's head, and that'll take you to educators as well. Once you're on the educators page, you'll see a couple of different paths forward. I'm going to pause on the lesson planning really quickly because then I'm going to get there. But in the home to school connection, there are home activities for students to do in a distance learning space. So if there is more reinforcement that you want students to do with families, you can pop into these. They're by grade level and they touch on all subjects, including social emotional learning. Additionally, we have two what are called lesson packs, and these go in depth into lessons, but they provide both an online and an offline variation and resources. for families. So this is the school to home connection. Lesson planning. You can lesson plan by topic, but new for the spring, and I will tell you, more are coming within the next 2 weeks. We have pacing guides and lesson plans. So by grades, right now there's one per grade, but again, in 2 weeks there will be one for every subject in every grade. And so say I want to teach 13 colonies. I can click on the pacing guide. And what this shows you is sort of pace throughout the week. How can I build and scaffold learning to a bigger idea, which is for this third grade for this third grade week, it would be understanding how the 13 colonies got built and what are the different functions of the regions, right? So similarly, these are all designed with building background, think and do, and assess. This is third grade. Let me actually show you, sorry, a second grade one with BrainPOP Junior. Again, same format over the course of a week. Everything is structured into building background, thinking and doing, and then assessing. And these topics scaffold upon one another. So every, the information in dollars and cents is then also necessary and sort of revisited a little bit for equivalent coins, and then the same for making change under $1. You can take these, use them flexibly. You can assign, day one, assign dollars and cents, and then day two, and then vocab, and then day two, assign these three. But these are pacing guides for topic. Below are all of those activities and content aligned to Common Core standards. We know that within the US and beyond, that Common Core is not everybody's core standards, but in service of sort of breadth, it's many people's core standards, and we know that they're variant and slightly connected elsewhere, but it's still all grade level appropriate. So that's what you will find in a pacing guide. Each one also has lesson plans. And so what the lesson plans do is they take the first 2 days of the pacing guide and they sort of flesh it out. They say, here's what that would look like in a distance learning lesson. So you've got your first page, and then each lesson breaks it down into steps. Okay, you want to watch dollars and cents, really clear descriptions about what you can give your students in terms of directions. And then on the right, we have modifications for offline, if you've got students accessing or getting material offline. Personalization, which is really about our diversity of learners in our classroom and how can we make sure that we're adapting for the diversity of learners and thinkers in our classroom. And then there are also modifications for L and language development. So that's what you will see under the lesson plans. There are these pacing guides, again, more to come. And then also dig deep into every topic has a lesson plan. So you can find them here, or you can find them on the topic page like we did. I'm just going to show you again, plant life cycle. And they've got some lessons ideas up here. So you can get to lesson ideas from there too. They're just more generalized lesson plans. But the pacing guides, I'm just clicking between things. The pacing guides are a way to structure. So we've done some of the heavy lifting, hopefully for you, in terms of how to build over the course of a week and sort of scaffold that thinking. We also have our PD, which is where you may have found the webinars. So there's some PD and professional development information there as well. If there's still more info you need, help.brainpop.com is a really, really robust resource. Let me just go there too, help.brainpop.com. Particularly, I scroll down to individual accounts, And that gives me, as a teacher, more detail about what's in that teacher dashboard. How do I create classes? How do I manage classes? A lot of the stuff we went over today, but in a little bit more step-by-step way. So you can find that at help.brainpop.com and then just scroll down to individual accounts. All right. Nope, not yet. Any questions as we wrap up that are sort of still lingering?
Yeah.
Wow.
Just a little bit. Some people have specific questions like account setup and like Google importing slides. Christine, what I would suggest is she's asking about just different parameters on students and paras, how they're importing. The help.brainpop.com is probably a great place to start. I don't think if your paras were listed as students, I don't think that would matter, but I think with this, it's a great site just to put in your key terms, and we'll get a wealth of resources. It's my go-to place. And yeah, I think that would probably be the best right there with the account setup. And a lot of people are asking about BrainPOP Junior in Spanish, so that's a popular request. I got 4 that have asked in this webinar alone, so we will pass on that number because that is definitely a resource that is asked for.
Yes, and you'll notice when we end this webinar, before we do that, I'll tell you a couple things, but you'll get an eval, and in that eval, if you're like, hey, I would love, co-teaching access, which is what we hear often and are advocating for. But your voice
twice today.
Yep. But your voice is also super impactful in what is needed. So please fill out those evals and give us your feedback. 2 quick points. One, you will get, I think I said this in the beginning, but I'll say it again just because that's what happens. You will get a automatic certificate of attendance for attending today. So it'll probably be, I think, in a day or two, because it gets like auto-generated. But you'll get that. If you are in New York, it counts for CTLE credits. If you're outside of New York, it varies by state. So that's one. And then another piece is that you'll get a follow-up email after the webinar ends today, sort of recapping with links. There are links that we shared today that are going to be in that follow-up email. And there will also be access to the recording of this, but you can also access it if you want to share it with colleagues on our YouTube channel. Any final thoughts, wonderings, questions?
Just a couple thank yous coming in.
All right.
So, you were good.
Well, you guys have been wonderful. Thank you so No, I mean it. Thank you so much. I'm glad it was super helpful. And
I was scrambling to get in here and thinking there was going to be a backlog, but oh no, it's very pleasant.
No, it's been really lovely. And so, and please visit our webinar registration page for upcoming. We have content-based webinars coming up, and you can also revisit our archives. Thank you all for joining so much today, and we look forward to seeing you again and getting to chat and answer your questions and help everybody along on this distance learning journey that we are all embarking on in different ways. So thank you, guys. I'm going to cancel.